Okay, so this is going to be the lesson 2 for you to refer to. But we're in Unit 1, and the overarching theme, the topic is living in a community of persons. Start with the opening prayer. May the wisdom of the all-compassionate one so shine within our hearts and minds this day, that we may be enlightened in our acts, thoughts, and deeds. So shall we learn to be true, good, and happy, and attain the spiritual peace. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. Right, let's move on then. Well, let's just review this part. This is at the beginning of the book, which talks about all of Unit 1. So it will also have questions for you to do. Unit 1 discusses the individual's rights, privileges and responsibilities in living with a community of persons. And this unit also explores the concepts of common good, principles of solidarity, economic society, and the civil society. They are critical in finding answers to queries such as: why is it important for the members of the community to work not just for themselves, but for the common good? So answer and submit. Even if you did this at the beginning of lesson 1, then it helps us to keep focused throughout. This question: how can the concerted efforts made, those are efforts all made together, of the members of the community create positive social change? And why is it important to delineate functions and allow the smallest, lowest, or least centralized authority to address matters under its circle of influence? Why is it important to delineate functions and allow the smallest, lowest, and least centralized authority to address matters under its circle of influence? What can we contribute to the creation of an inclusive and sustainable economic society? Answer and submit. And how important are the advocacies and contributions of the civil society, media, and the church to social justice, economic viability, economic peace, and gender equality? Spelling mistake there. So answer and submit. In this unit, we can find real-life examples wherein the concepts of common good, the principles of subsidiarity and solidarity, and social institutions are manifested. These include the challenges our society is facing to establish a free society with law-abiding, God-fearing, value-laden, and productive citizens. Values such as social responsibility, teamwork, delegation, equality, interdependence, and cooperation are highlighted and closely linked to how we live with others in a community. So that's the end of the introduction, and now we're on page 12. So we're going to start off with a quote from one of the American presidents. A wise and frugal government which shall restrain men from injuring one another, which shall leave them otherwise free to regulate their own pursuits of industry and improvement, and shall not take from the mouth of labour the bread it has earned. This is the sum of good government. That's from Thomas Jefferson. Moving on. So these are questions you won't find in the book, just teachers' questions. So I'd like a volunteer to share their insights from the last lesson, lesson 1, what is the common good? So if you can do that. and answer and submit that on PM. Now let's watch this video on the principles of subsidiary. Should be subsidiarity, introduced as the principle of subsidiarity, responsibility for addressing an economic or social problem that belongs to the smallest and closest community or authority that can handle the problem. Subsidiarity defines the role of the individual in charity and personal responsibility. Okay, now let's watch.
Called the principle of subsidiarity. The idea is that the responsibility for addressing social and economic problems belongs to the closest community or authority that can handle those problems. So individuals are responsible for things like doing their jobs, making purchases. Families are in charge of deciding where they want to live. Larger authorities like churches, community organizations, and local governments should do those things that individuals can't do alone, like protecting the homeless, feeding the needy, or fighting fires. Finally, state and federal governments should handle those big things that other organizations can't, things like building bridges and fighting terrorism. Let me give you an example of what subsidiarity looks like in a family setting. 10-year-old Manny is responsible for doing his math homework every night. But sometimes he encounters a really tough problem, and he needs his mom to step in and help. Now, she shouldn't ignore him. She has a responsibility to help him learn. But she also shouldn't just do the homework for him. She needs to provide the right level of assistance when he needs it, because that's the best way for him to learn and grow. It's exactly the same with government. It's most effective when the local authorities are empowered to address the issues closest to them. Now, it can be tempting to think that the federal government should address a lot of the problems in our society. After all, it has the most money and resources. But when the federal government gets involved with everyday issues, it can rob local authorities of their ability and their responsibility to do their jobs. It's like if Manny's mom just did his homework for him while he was on the couch. Manny might think that was great at first, but in the long term, it's not good for anyone. Today, we're being asked a lot of questions about responsibility. Who should select a child's school? Who should decide which doctor or health insurance plan your family should receive? Who should care for a local family in need? Who should help the unemployed pay their bills? Who should save for your retirement? For each of these questions, we need to ask ourselves, can I do that for myself, or do I need a larger authority to assist me? You know, a lot of times we see problems and we say, someone should really do something about it. Maybe what we need to realize is that that someone could be us. That's what subsidiarity is all about. Think about it. And maybe it's time we give it a try.
There we are. Good. So a very, very important topic, very interesting. That's why we need to have a guide to look through it. So based on the video, what is the principle of subsidiarity? Answer and submit, please. So a guideline towards answers. There are a variety of ways to answer, but consider this. The principle of subsidiarity means that the responsibility to address the social and economic problems belongs to the closest community or the authority that can handle those problems. Okay, that's an outline. Use your own words. Don't simply copy out this. Do work it out for yourself so you've understood it, and then it's important that we can move on. Why is the principle of subsidiarity important? Why is the principle of subsidiarity important? Please answer and submit. So a guideline. Your answer may include your own words, but should include these ideas. The principle of subsidiarity is important because local authorities must be empowered to address the issue closest to them. So now, students, let's move on to please read pages 12 and 13. And this is the preamble to the teaching them how to fish, is the preamble above it. How would you feel if the government commands you to wear only the clothes it deems appropriate, decides for you what college programs to study, dictates upon you where to live, and commands you to take specific hobbies? This is unlikely to happen in our country, since Filipinos are born and raised in a society that espouses the principle of subsidiarity. Espouses means encourages or practices. Simply put, the principle of subsidiarity means that a matter ought to be handled by the smallest, lowest, or least centralized authority capable of addressing the matter effectively. Another way to look at this principle is that a central authority should only perform tasks that cannot be performed at a local level. To have an idea on what this principle is about, read below the experience of the San Dionisio Credit Cooperative Incorporated. Okay, so let's move on then to the victories of life, teaching them how to fish. A cooperative is an autonomous association of persons who voluntarily cooperate for their mutual, social, economic, and cultural benefit. In the Philippines, one example of a successful cooperative is the parish-based San Dionisio Credit Cooperative, Inc., SDCCI, in Parañaque. SDCCI was founded in 1961 by the parishioners of San Dionisio Catholic Church. Through the hard work of the Institute of Social Order of the Philippine Jesuit Province and the cooperation of the members, SDCCI later grew to become one of the biggest credit cooperatives in Southeast Asia. The cooperative empowered the people to master a trade and engage in livelihood activities. "12 units, just a minute, that doesn't look right. The cooperative empowered the people to master a trade and engage in livelihood activities." Never mind that line. "It has put up an education center for their training." This means that no dole-outs were given. So instead of just giving fish to the poor, the cooperative taught its members how to fish. Furthermore, to achieve the ultimate goal of community building, SDCCI makes sure that the members receive support for their economic pursuits. Fishing nets and motorcycles are loaned to the members, which they in turn pay religiously on installment repayal. In the year 2016, SDCCI was awarded the Galing Co-op Golden Award by the Regional Cooperative Development Council, the NCR, and the Metro Manila Association of Cooperative Development Officers for improving the lives of its members as well as helping the community. Okay, so there's the end of that section, Victories of Life. In Flame, the members of the parish-based San Dionisio Credit Cooperative, Inc., SDCCI, desired to improve on their financial well-being and practiced self-determination. Through the guidance of the Jesuits and the cooperation of the members, they addressed their need for education and training and gathered the critical resources needed for their livelihood. The concept of SDCCI illustrates the principle of subsidiarity, wherein the members of the cooperative pursue mutual economic benefit, free from the influence or interference of the government. There it is. So, questions. You can have 4 questions for you here that aren't found in the book on the PDF. What is the story about? So use your own words to describe it, even though I'm going to give you a guideline here. Write it in your own way. But a guideline. Find your own words and ways to answer, but consider some of these factors. The story is about a successful parish-based cooperative named San Dionisio Credit Cooperative, Inc., SDCCI, in San Dionisio, Parañaque, that empowered the people to master a trade and engage in livelihood activities. Then, why do you think the story is titled Teaching Them to Fish? Why do you think the story is titled Teaching Them to Fish? Answer and submit. I'd like you to include ideas such as that the story is titled Teaching Them How to Fish because the members of the cooperative were not given dole-outs, but instead empowered should be to become self-sufficient. Spelling mistake there. Please answer and submit. How can you apply the concept of teaching a person to fish and not just giving them fish into your personal life? Answer and submit. Answers may vary. However, I should like to point out that we truly help others when we empower them to become self-sufficient. Class, let me explain that the members of the parish-based cooperative SDCCI desired to improve their financial well-being and practice self-determination. This act manifests the principle of subsidiarity. The members of the cooperative pursued mutual economic benefit free from the influence or interference of the government. Okay, students, please answer the reflective questions on page 13, and then I'd like to solicit some volunteers to share their answers. So the first reflection: do you see a problem in your community that can be solved by the homeowners association or barangay? Explain how the homeowners association or the barangay can address the situation. Answers there. There should be a green box there. And 2, how can you engage the youth in your community to act and make the community a better place to live in without asking for help or relying too much on the barangay officers? How can you engage the youth in your community to act and make the community a better place to live in? And can you think of a student organization that can help students succeed in their studies? And how can a youth group practice the principle of subsidiarity? Okay, you can screenshot this and use this. Actually, I'm going to do something here which is just to copy paste those green boxes onto those three, because it's important that people know and can see when there's an exercise to do at a look. This one, this one, and this one. Okay, so let's do that and then move on. Okay, let's move on. So we're on to page 14 now, over the page. Rediscover the principle of subsidiarity. All human beings have the capacity to solve their social and economic problems. Hence, according to the principle of subsidiarity, individuals, their family and neighbours, friends and associates, the village, civic and professional groups, and other organisations can do some things by themselves and must be allowed to do those things to respond to certain social and economic needs. For those tasks and functions that they cannot handle and manage, these will then be assigned to the next higher level, in this case, the local governments. For those tasks that cannot be efficiently handled by local governments, they will be under the responsibility of the national government. The second paragraph now on page 14. In the experience of the Sandino So Credit Cooperative Inc., the members of the cooperative addressed their concerns without the need to elevate them to the level of the local government. These they achieved very well on their own. There are situations, however, which a small organization will find difficult to handle. For instance, barangay peacekeepers, or the FANOD, will find it challenging, with their limited power and resources, to control the rise in crime rate, arrest criminals, and prevent other crimes from being committed. This becomes the responsibility of the local government through the police department, since they have the resources, wider jurisdiction, and are more capable to handle such resources. Sorry, to handle such occurrences. Sorry, I was a bit distracted. How about the rising prices in basic commodities such as rice, sugar, flour, meat, and vegetables? The responsibility to make basic commodities accessible and affordable to the citizens is beyond the control of local governments. In this particular situation, the national government must find ways and means to address the issue, as it is already affecting not just certain cities or provinces, but also the whole country. The national government can mobilize its various departments and agencies to ensure that the supply of basic goods is enough and to maintain the competitive prices for such products. Decentralization. The concept of decentralization is related to the principle of subsidiarity, wherein functions can be done on a lower level, such as local governments or small organizations, should be delegated to them by the national government. It cannot be denied that local governments or small organizations are the ones who know the specific needs of the people or the prevailing local conditions. This will hasten the response time, correct mistakes and bottlenecks, and reduce bureaucratic steps. Okay, this will hasten the response time, how quickly it responds, correct mistakes. A bottleneck is where you get too many things trying to get through a very small system. Like a bottle is quite big in the base and that the neck is very thin, so everything gets slowed down there. That's just like what happens with a complicated issue in an office where there's maybe one person trying to deal with 2,000 issues. So it will take very long. So this will reduce bureaucratic steps done in the offices, central offices. In decentralization, the process emanates, that means goes out from, the national government down to the regional level, to the provincial level, and ultimately to the local level. Okay, bottom of page 14. Applications of the principle of subsidiarity. Have you noticed in your community some groups or organizations that are not exactly part of the government, but exist and act in the service of people? Some communities have put up youth organizations to help young people become fit, healthy, productive, and busy. Now we're on to page 15. There are also organizations that cater to out-of-work women and housewives, providing them with training to set up their own livelihood. At the local level, there are initiatives by the city and barangay officials to ensure that the community is clean, safe, and a joyful place to live in. While at the provincial level, there are initiatives that promote the local products or industry to help in increasing the financial well-being of the locals and invigorate the native industry. Such examples are manifestations of the principle of subsidiarity, wherein individuals, families, other organizations, and local governments are given freedom by the national government to pursue activities that address their specific social and economic needs. The principle of solidarity. Rarely will a person refuse help, especially when it is most needed. Much more when assistance is expected to come from a group, an organization, or an institution. Regardless of community, province, dialect, or territories, all are interconnected. A person's actions affect others, and the collective action of the members of the society affects the individual too. In the complexities of life, there will be instances wherein a person is moved to relate to others, and we will be called to respond to the needs of other people. Solidarity means a unity or agreement of feeling or action, especially among individuals with a common interest. Solidarity is the individual's acceptance of his social nature and the affirmation of the bonds he shares with the rest of the members of the society. Hence, all people, regardless of differences in race, religion, gender, nationality, ethnicity, or social status, are brothers and sisters. The world's populace is one big human family who are called to overcome their differences and practice solidarity to achieve global peace and justice. As a virtue, solidarity must be seen in the context of freedom and justice. As a member of the whole human family, each person has a special commitment to the least, the last, and the forgotten in his surroundings. Without a doubt, the unity and happiness of the human family, whole human family, cannot be attained when some members are alienated from the larger community due to poverty, discrimination, and oppression. All are called to strive for peace and justice so that all members of the human community can attain their full potential. There are numerous ways in which one can show solidarity. In school, a young individual can make an effort to get to know a new student. He can practice tolerance and not judge or label other students who are different from him. He is also called to refrain from picking on other students and to prevent others from doing the same. In the community, the young person can practice solidarity by participating in local government-led projects that address problems which do not necessarily affect him. He can do this by consciously practicing the reduce, reuse, recycle program to lessen flooding, helping clean the rooms of public schools, or reporting busted street lamps in the community so they can be replaced. On the global level, solidarity is shown by rich countries who assist and help the poorer ones to ease their poverty and the hardship of their people. Sometimes even rich nations need help from other countries, especially when they are hit with a massive natural calamity, in the brink of war, or their economic situation is in a perilous condition. So we reach the end there of that article called Principle of Solidarity. Okay, we got a mini performance task here. You won't find this in the book. So dear students, here is your mini performance task. Form or join your groups, which are composed of 5 members, and then complete the following table. And then I would like some students to share their answers to the class. So we have the application of the principle of subsidiarity, the community or barangay level, the provincial level, and the regional level. Okay, so you can screenshot this to use it. And let's process that activity. So I'd like to explain that individuals, families, other organizations, and local governments are given freedom by the national government to pursue activities that address their specific social and economic needs. Okay, we're on to page 16. Before we do that, I'd like to have a look if I can give you the name of that group. Yeah, these groups for this exercise, if I've got the right one. Just a moment, I'm going to look for the correct group. Okay, well, I'll have to give you that in the... Then I wanted to give you the specific name of the group, because every time we make groups, it needs to go together correctly, which group you use, otherwise that can be confusing. But I'll put the page 15 in the name of the group, and there'll be groups of 5. Okay, so as I say, right. So there it is, application of the principle of subsidiarity, community or barangay level, provincial level and regional level. Let's process the activity. I'd like to explain that individuals, families, other organizations and local governments are given freedom by the national government to pursue activities that address their specific social and economic needs. On to page 16. And please deepen your understanding by answering the 3-to-1 chart on page 16. Then I would like some volunteers who can share their answers in the class. There it is, 3-to-1 chart upholding the principles of both subsidiarity and solidarity. Three things that I've discovered about the principles of subsidiarity and solidarity. 2 things that I can do to uphold the principles of subsidiarity and solidarity. And 1 goal that I hope to achieve this year that shows solidarity with the members of my community. Okay, so moving on then from the mini PT to the work on page 16. Please read page 16, and the featured virtue is, there's actually 2. It says delegation, but it's also trusting others and delegation. After you have read the text, I would like you to come up with a list of ways wherein delegation can be effective, not just a way to pass the work or responsibility to somebody else. Valuing a virtue, trusting others and delegation. In the context of the principle of subsidiarity, delegation is the assignment of responsibility or authority to another person or entity, that's like a group, to carry out certain activities. Delegation empowers the subordinate, that's the lower person, to make decisions and carry out actions so that the goals are achieved. In delegation, 2 concepts must be considered. First, the person delegating the job to the subordinate must ensure that the subordinate has the capability and has access to resources to carry out effectively the task and achieve the goal. Second, the subordinate who receives the work must be responsible and values the trust and confidence accorded to him or her. In fulfilling the delegated task, the subordinate demonstrates that he or she is capable of bigger responsibilities and has added value to the organization. This is seen at home when your parents ask you to take care of your younger siblings when they are out. They have delegated the task to you because they trust you. Hence, you have the authority over your brothers and sisters, but also carry the responsibility of ensuring that they have time to play, finish their homework, and help with the household chores. So, your performance task. Now I would like you to come up with a list of ways wherein delegation can be effective, and not just a way to pass the work or responsibility to somebody else. A list of ways, please. It's your mini performance task. Okay, on to trivia on page 17. So, dear students, please read the trivia on page 17. The 1987 Philippine Constitution supports the principle of subsidiarity. Section 1 of the Article 12 states, the goals of the national economy are a more equitable distribution of opportunities, income, and wealth, a sustained increase in the amount of goods and services produced by the nation for the benefit of the people, and an expanding productivity as the key to raising the quality of life for all, especially the underprivileged. In pursuit of these goals, all sectors of the economy and all regions of the country shall be given optimum opportunity to develop. Private enterprises, including corporations, cooperatives, and similar collective organizations, shall be encouraged to broaden the base of their ownership. Okay? So it's the end of the trivia. Students, I have a task for you. Create a doodle showing the economic activities happening in your province. Create a doodle showing the economic activities happening in your province. For example, students from Cagayan de Oro will doodle a tourism activity in the province, which could be river rafting. Okay, so that's your mini performance task. So then just submit that on PM. Uplifting realizations. There are many ways in which we can practice the principle of subsidiarity, and here are some suggestions for young people. At home, 1. Keep in mind that your family members are fully capable of finding solutions to problems, but also need the support of one another. Keep in mind that your family members are fully capable of finding solutions to problems, but also need the support of one another. 2. Celebrate the uniqueness of your family members. 3. Allow your siblings to pursue their academic interests or hobbies as long as it is not detrimental to their physical, emotional, or spiritual well-being. 4. Encourage your brothers and sisters to solve simple problems with creativity. 5. Ask your parents for help and advice in case you are faced with a difficult situation, but share to them your initial plans on how to address it. In school, 1. Propose a class activity that actually responds to a pressing need by students. An example might be a peer tutoring group for those who are finding difficulties with their studies, or a carpooling initiative for students who are finding it hard to go to school due to traffic. 2. Remember that you can talk to your student government representative or student council officers to air your concerns and propose projects that will benefit not just your class, but the student population as well. 3. Seek the advice of your teachers for concerns that are beyond your control. In the community. 1. Join youth groups that capture your interest and which aim to contribute to a peaceful, joyful, and healthier community. And 2. Follow the rules of the barangay and support their projects for the community. We're on to page 18. 3. Share with your parents some of your suggestions that will make your barangay a better place to live in. To live in, so that they can share these to the barangay officials during town hall meetings. Okay, students, give other examples of wherein the principles of subsidiarity can be applied. Oops, that's not page 17. Let me just check how to make them applied. Okay, that's just an out-of-place slide. Okay, at home, do your chores with joy and enthusiasm. 2. Study well, but find time to help your younger brothers and sisters with their schoolwork. 3. If your parents are late coming home from work, find time to clean the house. Ask your younger brothers and sisters to wash up and prepare a simple meal for the family. And 4. Help organize a family outing. 5. Find time to pray and worship as a family. In school, 1. Follow the rules and regulations of the school and gently remind your classmates who seem to forget them. 2. Support projects organized by the class officers. 3. Exert your best effort on group projects. 4. Share your talents to the school community. And 5. Support the projects of the school. In the community, 1. Follow the rules and regulations of the village or barangay. 2. Find time to help your neighbors. 3. Support the projects of the homeowners association officers and barangay officials. And 4. Participate actively in the Reduce, Reuse, Recycle program of the community. And 5. Show respect to all the members of the community. So here's your mini performance task, and that is points to ponder. Are you a class officer, a leader of a student organization, or a youth group head? 1. And can you describe an effective way for leaders to delegate duties to their members? So 1 has actually 2 questions. can you describe an effective way for leaders to delegate duties to their members? So both those answers there. On to questions 2 and 3. How will you respond to a leader who has delegated to you a seemingly difficult task? And 3, how can you practice the principle of solidarity in view of the vision and mission of your school? Okay, so moving on then to page 19. Engagement. The summative test. Identify the person or the concept that is being described by the following items. Write your answer on the space before the number. 1, this refers, these actually aren't numbered. I'm wondering whether I should just quickly put the numbers in. They should be numbered. Otherwise you'd have to all get the numbers off of the PDF and that would be a bit tedious. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And it's probably the same on the next slide. Nope, it's got them. Okay, so let's go again. So the first one, this refers to the assignment of responsibilities or authority to another person or entity to carry out certain activities. 2, this refers to functions that can be done on a lower level, such as local governments or small organizations, and should be delegated to them by the national government. 3, this refers to a unity or agreement of feeling or action, especially among individuals with a common interest. 4, this refers to the concept that a matter ought to be handled by the smallest or least centralized authority capable of addressing the matter effectively. 5, this refers to the virtue that we practice when we show tolerance and not judge or label other students who are different from us. 6, this refers to the smallest political unit in our society. 7, this refers to the person who is under another's authority or guidance. 8, this refers to the virtue that we practice when we participate in local government-led projects that help address problems in society. 9, this refers to the principle that non-government organizations practice to alleviate poverty and other social ills. And 10, this refers to the individual's acceptance of his social nature and the affirmation of the bonds he shares with the rest of the members of society. Okay, answers submitted, screenshot and submitted. Community solidarity. Look at the following government-initiated programs or laws and identify ways and means on how you and your community can support them to show solidarity. 1, Brigada Escuela is a project to the Department of Education which brings together school officials, parents, students and private organizations in an effort to clean and repair schools in time for the new school year. Volunteers from the government, the private sector and international aid organizations participate in the annual activity. 2, Tapat Ko Linis Ko is a program that encourages business establishments, residential owners and barangay officials to maintain cleanliness in their respective areas. It aims to have a clean environment so that pollution and floods due to clogged canals will be avoided. Situation 1. Your barangay promulgated a temporary curfew for young people ages 18 and below. Hence, all minors are not allowed to hang out and stay on the streets from 10 p.m. until 4 a.m. Some of your friends find this unreasonable. However, you know that the barangay officials are trying to protect the young due to the increasing number of petty crimes happening during those hours. How can you explain the side of the barangay officers to your friends in the context of the principle of subsidiarity? Possible solution 1, possible solution 2, and I'm going to put in a green box on these ones again. Same problem as people wouldn't know. And I was actually just going to go back and this should also have a green box, and it's quite important actually for people can see those. And the one that we just had. There you go. Actually see a bit of live slide making. And the same here. So back to it. The situation 2 then. In your community, there is a tree that is lined with very old acacia trees. You have heard from your grandfather that those trees have been there for as long as he can remember. The trees provide shade from the sweltering heat of the sun, are home to various beautiful birds, and have stood against the strongest typhoons. One day you see some employees from the municipal hall putting up a sign on one of the trees saying the trees will be balled and transferred to another area to give way to a road widening project. Your family and the rest of the community feel that there is no more need for road widening, and that the century-old trees are more likely to wither and die if balled and transferred. What can you do to ensure that the century-old trees will be saved? Possible solution 1, possible solution 2, and the best solution. Okay, moving on. So now the scaffolding for the performance task. Okay, dear students, now we have our performance task about how we can help to make a better society. So how, twice that. How we can help make a better society. So making a concept map. So these are examples of concept maps. They're not, so it's going to be make a concept map, and here are some examples. These are not maps of this topic. They're just examples of how a concept map is constructed. Okay. You can refer to those with the label, the branch, the connector, and the node, the main subject, and then you've got connections and nodes. So that's your performance task. Coming up. Here's your base. This is the actual instruction. Create a concept map about the common good. Include the various ways wherein one can promote the common good at home, in the school, and in the community. And make sure to add how the concept of the common good can help individuals and communities attain their goals. So there's your rubric. Concept map has I'm not going to read them all out, but if the concept map has a high quality, very appealing and skillfully done, if its concepts are highly cohesive and highlighting each other, and if the output achieves the task's objectives, which are written up here, you get 3 points. If the output does not achieve the task objectives, the concepts are unrelated, and the concept map has a low quality, not appealing and unskillfully done, 1 point. Got that? Okie doke. Moving on. The summaries. The principle of subsidiarity means that individuals, their family and neighbours, friends and associates, the village, civic and professional groups, and other organisations can do certain things by themselves and must be allowed to do those things in order to respond to certain social and economic needs. Delegation is the assignment of responsibility or authority to another person or entity to carry out certain activities. Solidarity means a unity or agreement of feeling or action, especially among individuals with a common interest. Solidarity must be seen in the context of freedom and justice. Teamwork entails all the members to think and act in such a way that it benefits not just the individual members, but the whole team as well. And then ending with a quote from Claudio Humes. In fact, effective solidarity with the poor, both individual persons and entire nations, is indispensable for the construction of peace. Indispensable means you can't do without it. There we are, dear students. We have reached the end of lesson 2 for grade 9. And we can pause and just breathe before the closing prayer. So just take a moment. The closing prayer. Reverently do we pray to Thee, the Holy and Perfect One. We earnestly resolve to understand Thy teaching and to daily tread Thy path. So shall, like Thee, we may attain the peace of Nirvana. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. Very well done, everyone. So I look forward to seeing your works and seeing your group activities. Have a great day.